Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar all about Pinterest marketing today. Now, I'm not a person that likes to go through a lot of kind of extra detail on webinars, so it's going to be quite packed with information. You might want to take some notes as we work through, although obviously I will also be sending the video out afterwards, although it will only be available for a limited time. So you might want to listen to that one quite early on. If you've got any questions, please do ask as we go through. There is also going to be a Q&A session at the end, if anyone wants to stay for that. Also, if you run into any technical difficulties as I'm going through, if you can't hear me or anything like that, please just do drop a message into the chat box, and then I'll try and sort it out as I go through. Okay, so let's start off then talking about how valuable Pinterest is to our businesses. Basically, it's the second biggest driver of traffic of all the social media sites, apart from Facebook, and it also generates a huge amount of revenue for the businesses, both large and small, who use it well. Now, recent statistics found that the average e-commerce order, which was referred by Pinterest, was $179. Now, Facebook comes in at $80 and Twitter at $69. Those are the averages. So with that potential revenue on offer to you and your business, you can see just how valuable Pinterest traffic can be. And it's not just for the e-commerce stores. Pinterest can work for all types of businesses, and it's valuable whether you have services or products to sell, whether you sell online only or even are a brick and mortar local business. It can work whatever type of business you have. So it's definitely well worth, looking into and seeing how you can make it work for you. Now, when we come to talk about setting up your profile, I won't go into a huge amount of detail on this, as I expect many of you will have already done it, but I do want to mention some key points. And if you haven't already set up your profile, then it does walk you through it quite clearly, but just take a note of some of these areas so that you make sure that you've covered them. Now, as you know, Pinterest is formed by setting up a number of boards, and you can keep these either very niche specific if you want to work around your business only, or you can take them wider, and kind of talk about related niches and things like that. Either way is fine. It's just whatever works for you. And also it's a little bit concerned with what you enjoy pinning as well. It should be something that you enjoy doing, Pinterest. I find it quite a fun site because it's not like you have to write loads and loads or anything like that. You're basically just looking at a whole host of other kind of motivating and interesting and educational pins, so it can be quite a positive experience. Now, it's best to set up a business profile, as this gives you more options than setting up a personal profile, and it allows you to verify your website and see analytics and what is being liked, pinned, etc. Now, if you have a personal profile already, you can always convert it over to a business one. Now, you should also think about the username that you choose. If it's too long, then you'll need to cut it down a little because it can't be more than 15 characters. So if you do have a long business name, try and think what's the most sensible way to cut it down. But you want to keep it at least recognizable so that if you're, you want to keep that brand awareness going across all the social media sites. Now, you can add a keyword optimized description of what you offer in your bio. And I will be talking about keywords throughout this webinar. For those who aren't sure what I mean, I'm really just talking about the words that you want to get found for in search. So if you're a pet sitter, an accountant, an aromatherapist, those are keywords. And if you then narrow it down further to get found more easily, that's what's called a long-tailed keyword. So it could be pet sitter, Chicago area, something like that. You're making the keyword longer and you're actually narrowing down the amount of results, therefore, that you'd get in the search engines, because obviously pet sitter would bring up millions, pet sitter Chicago would bring up considerably less. Now, you also want to add your website link, and don't forget to verify your website to add authenticity. It is slightly technical to do that, so you might need to speak to your web developer if you're not used to doing the technical side yourself. You can also add in your other social media links, and you can also add a location. Now, if you're a brick and mortar store, or you're a service-based business that's, serves a surrounding local area, you're going to want to do that. If you sell online or you sell internationally, then you might just want to add the country where you're based or the countries where you cover. Also add a profile image, and this can be your logo, a photo of you, or something else which sums up your business. And again, try and keep these consistent across all your social media profiles. So if somebody sees you on one site, they recognize you on the other sites. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about your Pinterest boards. And what I've just put up on the screen is actually my my profile for Pinterest. Now, as you can see, because I have websites in quite a few different niches, I made the conscious decision to actually include all of those on my one board. Now, I could have set about creating a different one for each site. So I've got a pet one, for example, a crafts one, and my cartwheels across the sky, which is obviously about business and marketing. But instead, I just created boards for those. That's for time reasons, because I would find it very difficult to support multiple Pinterest profiles as well as the client profiles that I support. And also because I just find it more enjoyable to do it that way. I like having the mixture, and I think it doesn't affect me too much. Now, obviously, if you are very much a single you're a pet-based business, then have lots of different boards for different animals, different pets, different types of pet care, all things like that, but keep it quite, centered around your theme. If you cover more wider areas, then I don't see there's any harm in doing them all together. So just talking about that, if you are keeping it fairly central, so say you are a pet sitting business, you might have a board for your business offers, but you could also have one for each of the different pet types you look after. You could then have ones on dog care, dog health, dog training, or any type of pet there. And then maybe one on cute pictures of pets, and even expand it further out to pet products you love, pet sites you recommend, and so on. So you can see that when you start to think around your subject area, there are lots of different things you can bring into that one niche. Now, you can niche it down even further, and say you create something handmade, maybe jewelry, you could even have a board for each different semi-precious stone. So what do I mean by that? Say you had one for silver ruby earrings. And that way you stand a good chance of showing up in search, because if somebody types in that they're looking for silver ruby earrings, you're going to have a whole board coming up on that. You're going to have a whole board filled with different silver ruby earrings. Now, they don't have to all be yours. You could put a selection of yours in there, but you could also pin others that you find around Pinterest. You could pin antique ones. You could pin different ones in different styles. Now, you might be thinking, well, I'm pointing my customers towards other people. You could say that, but also you're also showing up in search for that, and you're also promoting other people, and they may well promote you. So it's a balance. You'll have to go with what you feel guided for your customers on that. But I think there's something to be said for both options. But either way, you could still break it down to silver ruby earrings and only show your own if you wanted to. Now, with Pinterest, you have to remember that people are often coming there to gather information, to see some images they love, and to curate these pins onto their own boards. So even if a large percentage of people who like or repin your pins aren't ready to purchase from you yet, or even ever, what they're doing is they're sharing your pins to a much wider audience who will be interested in what you offer. And that's why I was saying about the ruby earrings. Somebody might pin something from your board, And those sets of earrings might not be yours, but it actually introduces where they've pinned their audience to your sets of boards. So that's why I'm saying it can be worth it from that perspective. Now, Pinterest is all about the visual. Um, so you can create some really nice looking pins. This helps you to stand out. Now, obviously, if you're a product based, this needs to include images of what you offer. But even if you're service based, you can offer tips, information, beautiful imagery, quotes. A list of resources, a list of how to's. Now, if you want any help in creating images like that, I do have a free PicMonkey course, and I will send out a link to that when I send out the recording. So you do want to try and become a little bit creative with Pinterest to see to see that you're creating some different pins, because those will catch people's attention. So just to talk about pin size, so Pinterest doesn't limit how long pins are vertically, but it does have a limit on the width, and that's 735 pixels. So any image will work, but it will be resized to that width. Now, taller images seem to get pinned more often on Pinterest, and these can be a great way to add text-based pins. You might have seen them where they go a long way down the page. They might be a few different photos above each other. They might be, a how to. It could even be a recipe. So that's a way of getting more information onto Pinterest. Things like 10 dog training tips, 10 things not to forget when you pay your taxes, a list of resources, a recipe. It depends what type of business you have. Now, also, if you want people to pin your posts from your blog, always make sure that you add at least one image to every post. Otherwise, when they click on the pin button, Pinterest won't be able to find anything, and it will randomly look around your site for other images. It could bring up, pictures from things that you've got in the sidebar, adverts. It could be pins from other blog posts, and you don't really want that. You want the image to be very relevant to your blog post. So always add at least one image. And you can find those on places like Unsplash, Pexels, Pixabay. They all provide really good copyright-free images that you can use anywhere. If you do the PicMonkey course, there's actually a list of resources in there. So next I want to talk about what seems to work particularly well on Pinterest. And a startup company called Curalate did some intensive research on which pins got more attention over a 12-month period. And this is what they found. Product images seem to do better if they're taken against a plain or a minimalist background with not too much in the frame. And this helps the product itself to stand out. So if you are coming to take photos of your products, just bear that in mind, particularly things like jewelry and stuff like that. You don't want too much going on in the image. You actually want the product to really stand out. Again, very light or very dark images didn't seem to do so well, with the middle ground performing better. Pins that contained multiple dominant colours rather than just one were seen to gain more attention. So if you have got, a variety of things in there, variety of colours, so you can have like your product, maybe you have a plain background, but it doesn't necessarily have to be one with no colour in it. So just have a think about that as well. Warmer colours such as reds and oranges were pinned more than cold colours such as blue. And funnily enough, images without human faces perform better on Pinterest. Now, Pinterest seems to be more about things rather than Facebook, which is more about people. So on Facebook, you would probably find that images with human faces in perform better than they do on Pinterest. Now, I'm not saying that you need to stick religiously to this. You don't have to think every time you create a product images, you've got to do warm orange and red colours when blue works, just as well for you. It's not saying they don't get pinned at all. I'm just giving you kind of highlights of what seem to work well. So maybe you can perhaps just do a few more of those things. If you are repinning or you're creating your own images. Okay, so let's just talk a bit more about pins, and that's to try and pin consistently. Now, a few a day is ideal, but even if that's not manageable, at least try to pin a few times a week. Don't leave it for several weeks and then do a huge rush of loads of pins, as this will really just swamp the timeline. You don't want, hundreds of pins going out from you at the same time. Now, I know that can be difficult because we often sit down and we have a kind of a pinning binge session where we go through and we find loads of boards that we love, we're repinning it to our boards. But if it's things that, I think that's okay if it's other people's pins, but if you're pinning some of your own products, do try and space them out at least a little bit, or as I say, pop in, 2-3 times a week. Also, remember, you don't have to be pinning all fresh content. It's important to repin pins you find on the site and also pin other people's info from around the web. If you install the pin marklet to your browser toolbar, if you come across any website that you think has a nice product on it or a good blog post, then all you need to do is hit the little pin button on your browser and it will bring up any image from that page. That's why I was saying it's so important to have images on your own blog post. You can select the image you want and it will connect it directly back to that website from your pin board. By pinning other people's information, it keeps your readers engaged if you pin from a wide variety of sources. So if you see a great blog post, pin it to one of your boards, and I would say you need to keep a ratio of about 20% original pins and the rest repins. You really want to build authority on your profile as a great pinner, so choose pins that are inspirational, entertaining, informational, helpful, valid, and current. That's important. You don't want to pin things of, an event that happened 3 years ago. And that can happen quite easily because you don't always check through. So try and keep as current as you can, especially when it comes to your own information. If you repin something from someone else's that's a little while ago, I wouldn't worry too much. But with your own info, always keep it up to date. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about boards. You want to keep the names of your board keyword rich, but relatively short so that they get found in search. Also, you'll see that when you create a board, there's always space to add a description. Now, this can help you get found when people are searching for the kind of pins you offer. So do fill out that description section. Sometimes it seems like a bit of a hassle, but if it's going to result in more visitors to your pin board, it's definitely well worth the few minutes it's going to take you to do. Now try to keep your pin board titles shorter than 20 characters. Now you can go up to 30, but it won't show all of the 30 in the search. So put the most pertinent keywords first. So if you're, I don't know, pinning something like dog care for basset hounds or something, make sure the dog care is at the beginning because that's probably the more important keyword than the basset hounds. So just put your keywords to the start of the board. Now you can change the board cover for each board, and the image should be attractive and sum up what the board is about. If you don't choose an image, Pinterest will automatically choose it from, I think it's the first pin that you've ever uploaded to that board. So the first ones might not be that great. So you can always go in, just click on the board, edit it, and you'll see change cover image. Just click through and find one that really is very visually appealing and also sums up what the board's about. That way, if people are coming, they're landing on your profile. Now, obviously, people come to your profile from all different means. They might come from a pin that you've pinned somewhere else. They might come from your Facebook profile. They might click across from your blog. If they do, they're going to land actually on the home page, and they're going to see all your boards set out in front of them. Therefore, you want it to look visually appealing, and you want that to be a nice image of what you're offering there. Now you can see on the screen there that pin that's out of alignment. I'm just showing you there how you can drag boards around your profile. And I tend to put my most important ones at the top, because obviously people are going to land on your profile, and the ones they see at the top are going to really sum up what your whole profile is about. And you obviously want them to be kind of well pinned boards. You want quite substantial amounts of pins on there. Don't put ones at the top that you're only just starting and you've only got 3 or 4 pins on. Make them well-rounded, well filled out boards. And you can rearrange your boards so that you change it around. So say with Christmas coming up, for example, say you are handmade, you create handmade items and you've created a seasonal board for Christmas, drag that to the top, because now in these weeks ahead, if people land on it and they're looking for Christmas gifts or anything like that, that's what they're going to see at the top. And at the end, you don't have to get rid of the board, just drag it down to the bottom until next Christmas, and then you can restart pinning it again. So that way you're not having to do everything over each time, but you are making the most of the boards that you've got. And you can do that for anything. If something's going on or a board seems more popular, pins from a board seem more popular, just drag it to the top and make the most of it. Right, let's talk about what it's really important to include on your pins. Now, if you're adding your own pins, and I'm not talking about repinning here, I'm talking about, pinning a blog post, pinning a service that you offer, pinning one of your products. These are the things that I want you to bear in mind. When you pin it, you should always make sure that the pin goes directly through to the item you're selling, the service you're offering, or the blog post you want to highlight. If it just goes back to your website as a whole, no one is going to have the patience to look around for the actual item they're interested in, and they'll click away. Now, I know that seems obvious, but sometimes you do see pins where you click on it and it just takes you to that person's homepage. So if you've got any pins that have kind of happened like that, just pop into them, edit them, and you can actually change the URL so it goes back directly to the item. Now, within the pin description, always add something in there, include some keywords, and tell people exactly what the pin is about. Remember, this is all about search traffic. Now, I also like to add a link to the item or post within the description. So although when you click on a pin, it does take you directly through to your website or your blog or wherever you've pinned the pin from, sometimes that's almost an extra step for people that they might not necessarily think about. So what I do is I actually include the URL in the description, because if people see it right in front of them, especially if it's something that you've got for sale, so look at these beautiful earrings, there's the link, and they are more likely to click through and have a look at the earrings and see if there's something they want to buy. Now, just one word of warning. Always use the full URL in your descriptions. Don't use shortened links such as Bitly or Tiny, because Pinterest often marks these as spam. And if that happens, I'm not sure whether they remove the pin, or what happens is I think a warning comes up if someone clicks on it. You might not be aware of it because you're clicking from your own thing that you've created. But if somebody else comes across it, what happens is a warning comes up saying, this is sending you to a site that we have concerns about. And it's up to the person whether they click through. Now, often, if I see a warning like that, it's going to put me off clicking through. So just use the full URL of your product or your blog post or whatever it is. Now, if the item or the service you're pinning is for sale, so not talking about blog posts now, actually things that you're selling, I'm also not talking about affiliate products here, if anyone does affiliate sales, because that's a different matter. And for example, with Amazon, there's rules about that. You're not allowed to put the price on, I think, because Amazon often changes the price. So I'm talking about your own products and services that you're pinning from your own website or your own marketplace, Etsy or something like that. And the important thing is always to add a price. Pins with prices get far more attention. I think they get something like 38% more repins and likes. And this is for two main reasons. First, it's because when people are scrolling through, they actually realize the item is for sale. And secondly, they can see straight away whether or not it's in their price range and then click through to find out more. Now, if you sell high-end or luxury items, you might be thinking, well, I don't want to put the price on there because that might put people off. I'd rather them click through, read more about it before they see the price. But I think, to be honest, people rather see the price. They want to know whether it is relevant for them, whether they can afford it. And also, some people are looking for that high-end luxury item, and by not putting it on there, you're kind of cutting those people out. So it's always best to be upfront about it and to put the pricing on there. You want the products and services to appeal to the right fit for you. It doesn't matter if loads of people click through if there's no price. If they're not your target audience, you're not going to get any more sales. So it's better to be upfront and attract the right people to you. Now, you also want to sell the benefits in your description. For example, instead of just describing whatever it is, say what it offers or brings to the user. Now, we always talk about stressing the benefits over the features of a product, and this is really what I'm talking about here. So say you were adding ruby earrings, as we talked about earlier. You can say something like, these are the perfect anniversary or birthday gift. They'll complement any outfit. Or if you are, say, a pet sitting service, put something along the lines of, if you want to know your dog is in safe hands and enjoying life is in his own bed at home, so he doesn't have to go into kennels. You don't want to just say, find my pet sitting service here in Manchester, UK. You want to kind of stress what that's going to bring, what's the benefit it brings to the person looking. Basically, you're trying to bring into it whatever the user will get out of it. Now, if you do want to use hashtags on Pinterest, do that, but don't go overboard. It's not like Instagram where you see people use loads and loads of hashtags. So I would say keep it to about 3 as a maximum. Now, a great idea can be to use your brand name as a hashtag, and then when anyone clicks on it, any products or services you have hashtagged in that way will show up. So if you're I don't know, you sew children's clothing and you're called Butterfly Children's Clothing, use that as your hashtag, and then only apply that hashtag when you're actually pinning your handmade items, basically. So don't do it on anything that's not yours, and then when somebody clicks through, they will be able to see your whole range of children's clothing, whatever it is, whether it's whatever you're creating, just keep it to your actual brand. Okay, the next thing is how to pin. Sounds a bit obvious, but you can pin in 3 main ways. You can pin from a button on a website. You often see those next to images or blog posts. You can install the pin marklet to your toolbar. I did mention that earlier. And if you just go on to Pinterest, they'll show you where you can download that, or you can go into something like Firefox or Chrome and add it as an add-on if you go into the Chrome store. Obviously, it's a free add-on. That means that you can just use it on any site. So even if you do normally pin from your own pins on your blog or your website, your products, do put that onto your browser bar, because it helps you to, when you're browsing the net, if you see a product somewhere else that's not yours, or you see a great blog post, it does help you just to quickly share it. Now you can also edit your own pins, and that's just showing you where to do that there. So if for any reason you upload a pin and it doesn't click through to the right place, you can just head in and edit it there. Now that's really good, because the third way of adding pins is to upload them from your computer or Mac. So say you've got something, say you've created a recipe pin, really nice recipe pin. You upload it from wherever it's saved on your hard drive. But when you upload pins, it doesn't obviously have a website, it doesn't have a URL link in there. So what you would want to do is go in and then link it to wherever that recipe appears on your website. So it's just a very quick and easy way of going in and changing anything. Now, if you do want to take your pins to the next level, you can apply to get rich pins set up. You have to apply through Pinterest for that. And it does mean that you'll have to make some tweaks to your website. Pinterest explains what you need to do. Things like prepping it with meta tags, if you don't have those already set up, if you sell products or services. But if you do sell a lot of products from your website, it may well be worth doing this. Speak to your web developer if you don't do your website yourself, because I'm sure they'll be able to help you with that. And it just adds a lot of extra functionality. And so if you've got a lot of products, it can be well worth it for you. Now you can also add videos direct to Pinterest. So if you do create videos and you upload them to YouTube, go into YouTube and share them from there with the Pinterest button that appears below the video. And then once you do that, they'll actually play within Pinterest, so people don't actually have to be taken outside the site. And if that's the case, they're more likely to watch it. So also SlideShare is another thing. If you ever create SlideShare presentations, if you do like PowerPoint presentations and turn them into a SlideShare, you can actually upload those directly to, link those directly to Pinterest, so people can scroll through them within Pinterest as well. So that's not going to appeal to everybody, but it's just something optional if you want to do that. Right, I'm going through this at quite a pace, so I hope it's not too fast for everyone, but I'm just conscious that I don't want to keep you too long on a Saturday. We're about halfway through, so we've just got a few more bits of information to go, and then there'll be a quick Q&A at the end for people. Okay, now the next thing that you want to think about is using Pinterest for research. So you can learn a lot about what people like in your niche, and this can help you a great deal with audience research. For example, if you're a designer of some type, clothing, jewelry, anything like that, you can see the trends that are coming up. You can see the colors that are popular. You can see home furnishings, all sorts of different things. So there I've just shown you, when you click on that little 3 lines at the top of Pinterest, it drops down into all the different sections. And if you click on the popular button, you can actually see what's trending there. And if I just click on here, so I mean, this was a little while ago, I created this screenshot, but that was obviously what was trending on that day. So you can just see the kinds of things that are popular. And if you scroll down, there's lots of other things in there as well. So it's just something to have a look at occasionally. You can also go up to the search bar, type in your niche area interest, see what's coming up, see what type of pins are proving popular with people, what things are getting a lot of repins, etc. And you can maybe even model some pins. I'm not saying copy, but model some of your pins on the things that are doing well. It's all worth just having a look at. Okay, now this is just on the screen now. I just want to sort of mention the different areas there. So I'm talking about really getting interactive on Pinterest and treating it a little bit more like the other social media platforms. I think with Pinterest, we kind of forget sometimes about the social element of it. I think a lot of us like pins and we repin. I'm not sure if so many people comment and tag other people by using the at little circle sign, but you can do that if you want to, so you can mention someone. So you just put at and then their username following it, so you can draw someone's attention to something. Or, even if you shared one of their pins, you could say, sharing this beautiful necklace from at Butterfly Designs today. I've got butterflies on the brain today. So that's just a way of tagging someone and showing that you like the product that they've shared. Now, you can also set up group boards and invite others to pin. So, for example, if you know several people who share a common interest, this can be a great way to harness the power of each other's pins and also each other's audience. Because if you've got a group board, the people that follow that, so say Sarah and Mary pin to a board, if Sarah pins something, all of Mary's followers are going to see it as well. So it's just a great way to widen your search out. So say you're, a group of pet sitters, a group of handmade artists, a group of solicitors and accountants that get together in a town, things like that, a networking group. Create a group board where you can all pin, and then if it was location specific, for example, you're going to get a bigger audience in that location. Or niche specific, you're going to get people that are interested in pets. Or say you're a wedding designer, wedding cake maker, wedding photographer, you could all get together and have a group board, because people that are interested in a wedding photographer are going to be looking for a cake as well. So it's kind of just widening out that search a little bit. You can also message people on the site now and ask them if they'd like to join you, and also tell them why you've invited them. If you see their boards and you really like the way they've set up their profile, they pin really interesting content, invite them to pin with you and just drop them a note. They can only say no. So it doesn't matter too much if they say no, but at least you've tried. And you can see there, with the green arrows, I think most of you are going to know all those different things. The one on the far right is if you use Buffer. If you don't use Buffer, you won't have that. If you haven't connected your Pinterest, you won't see that come up, but otherwise that will appear there. So don't worry if that's not on yours. Okay, I now want to talk about different types of board ideas, because it can be difficult to come up with different things for your profile. So if you sell products, you could showcase your latest items, and this works particularly well if your work is seasonal. So you could have a lot of boards for all your different categories, but maybe new designs as they come up, new products, pin them to our latest design board, and then anything that's at the top of that is things that you've pinned most recently. You can create a board that is specifically for special offers or events. If you have a larger organization, if you're not in business by yourself, you could have a meet the team board. Now, you don't have to be a massive company or organization to do that. Say you're a local coffee bar and you regularly pin, recipes and great meals and things going on in your local area, and you've got 3 people that are waiters or behind the counter staff, you could just introduce them on there, and then they could pin their own pins and ideas on there. It's just a way of widening it out a bit. If you're a pet sitter and you employ a lot of different pet sitters and they're on Pinterest, you can introduce each of them, tell people a little bit about their background and interest. So it's just a way of getting a bit of variety on there. You could even have a board about your clients if you wanted to. Obviously, bear in mind that you've got to get permission for that, because if you're putting any of their information on there, but if they've written testimonials or things for you, for example, you could put those onto a little pin, a little graphic. You can actually write it on using something like PicMonkey or Canva, write the testimonial on, who it's from, and pin that on there. And if they're a company rather than a private individual, you could even link that back to their website as well. Obviously, they'll have, you need to have their permission to be using their name and website, but presumably you'll have got that anyway if they've given you the testimonial. Now, a history board you could do, and you could do this about how and why your business was set up and offers extra glimpses into your business, maybe milestones, things like that. You could do a tutorials and how-to boards, and you don't have to be all your own. So say you're, well, it could be a recipe one again, pin your own recipes there, pin your own, if you're a crafter, how-tos, tutorials. If you're you create services or anything like that, but you could also pin tutorials from other people to the same board. So you could have a theme. So say it was Christmas food or something like that. You could pin lots of different ideas there. You can have a giveaway board, and this can be good if you offer giveaways quite regularly. Maybe a restaurant that gives away a meal for two, or a handmade business that offers a product occasionally, and keep a board specifically for those giveaways. You could have a reviews and recommendations board. So it doesn't have to be your own products, but ones you recommend sort of in related areas. And then maybe a few of your own sort of reviews and testimonials thrown in on that board. You could do a showcase of your blog or your website. So for example, you could pin all your blog posts in one place. So if people want to see past posts, they know to head to that board. So one quick thing I want to add, if you're a local business, and by local I mean you're targeting a specific area, you don't necessarily have to be brick and mortar, but say you're a plumber, and you cover a certain area, you can actually tag your images with the location it was taken, and this can really help you to show up in local search. So say you're a cafe again in a local town, and you're taking some photos of the inside of your cafe or restaurant, tag those photos with your location. And on certain boards, you can even add a location map. That works quite well for local businesses, and a map will appear alongside the pins. Okay, so cross-promoting, this is really important. Try and share your pins onto your other social media platforms occasionally. I'm not saying you have to do this all the time, don't do it systematically, but from time to time, share a really good pin, maybe a pin that's garnered a lot of attention, a lot of likes, a lot of repins. Share it across on Twitter, on Facebook, G+, anywhere that you want to. And also you can even embed it into your a blog post if you wanted to, just to show people. And also mention your Pinterest on your other sites as well, because that can help you cross-promote your different profiles. And the same is true, you could have a link back to your Facebook page from Pinterest, to your Twitter profile, to your G+. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that. Now, the next thing is, don't forget to check your analytics. If you've verified your website, you will have more detailed analytics. I think you get some anyway, even if you haven't verified it, or maybe you don't have a website, but you're pinning from say your Etsy marketplace or something like that. So there will be some analytics in there. There'll be even more if you have verified your website. Now you can always see what type of your content is getting the most likes and repins. And once you know what's popular, then you can create more of it. You can create more things in that vein, so that those things are obviously more, getting more attention by your audience. Okay, the last thing to say is be consistent. And we all have a lot of different things to do. We all have very little time. I know that most of you, marketing isn't the core of your business. It's just one element of it, and your business takes up a lot of the other time. But try to be consistent, and if you need to, use one of the scheduling platforms to help you with this. Now, Buffer actually includes Pinterest now. It never did before, but if you go for the paid version of Buffer, which I think is $10 a month, then you can actually schedule pins, and that can be really helpful because it is difficult sometimes to space them out nicely. So it's true of all the social media platforms. If you start to pin regularly, you will start to see your following grow. One more thing, follow other people. That's a good way to get people following you back. So I wouldn't go crazy on this, but if there's people that you're genuinely interested in seeing more of, do follow them, because you'll find that many of those will follow you back. I wouldn't do it as some people do with Twitter, where you're following hundreds and hundreds of people, because that can get a bit out of hand, and you don't want your follower number to be, the people you're following to be like 10,000 and then you've got 1,000 followers, because it looks a bit skewed, and it's also difficult to then go through and unfollow the people that aren't following you back. With Twitter, there are tools for that. As yet, I don't think there's been a successful tool created for Pinterest that allows you to do that. But people that you're genuinely interested in, that you want to see more of their pins, it's well worth following some other people. Okay, so that's it. I do want to just have a quick Q&A session if anyone wants to ask any questions. Before that, I just want to quickly mention exciting news, probably on my part, not so exciting for you, but I just want to mention a book that I'm launching actually tomorrow. And if you've enjoyed the things that I've put into this webinar, we go a lot deeper on a lot of the other social media platforms as well. So it covers Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. And it also has a number of resources. So it takes you through videos where you can actually click through and find out how to do something as well. So it's kind of more than just the book itself. I also talk through different types of content that you can create for social media, goal setting, analytics, and really just making social media more enjoyable for you. I think that we all moan about social media. We moan about the reach that we're getting. It's not as good, the time that we spend on it. But ultimately, it is a positive thing for your business, largely because it's free, and also because what you're doing on social media is being social. You're building relationships. That should be the thrust of what you're doing there, rather than the hard sell marketing. And probably most of us don't really enjoy the hard sell marketing, and we're better at the relationship building. And that's why social media can work so well for you. So really, it just walks through that whole element of making it a bit more enjoyable for your business and making it as streamlined as possible. So do check that out. The sales page isn't even up yet, but there is a link if you do want to grab the book, but obviously the sales page will be there tomorrow as well. You can pre-order it today and it will be sent tomorrow. Okay, right, I've talked enough. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask on Pinterest, or anything that I've said as I've gone through? You can just type them into the chat box if you do have anything. You can send it to just me, or you can send it to everyone. It's totally up to you. Anything that you struggle with on Pinterest, you find difficult, that does work particularly well or doesn't work? I'll be sending out, somebody just asked whether I'll be sending the slides out. I'll actually be sending the recording out. There is only a limited time to watch the recording though, so if you want to go through it, I think hopefully it will be out later today, and it's usually only there for 24 hours. So if you do want to watch it, do it in the next 24 hours. I will put in a couple, when I send out the recording, I will also include a couple of links in case anybody wants to go through to the couple of different places that I mentioned as I was walking through. Any other questions? It's hard to tell on here if anyone's typing and I'm going to miss the question or whether there aren't any questions. No, nothing coming through. Well, I hope this has proved helpful. I tried to get as much information, practical information into it as I could, so there are things that you can actually take away. If you did miss any of the earlier section, you might just want to listen through to that because it might make more sense when it comes from kind of the whole of it, because I did talk about some things that I referred to, so I referred to them later on, to earlier things in the webinar. So if you did miss any of that, you might just want to quickly listen to that on the replay. Okay, well, if there aren't any questions, I can't see any coming through, I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your Saturday, whatever time it is for you there. It's nearly 6 here, but it's probably a lot earlier in other places. And I'll catch you on the next webinar, or I'll see you. Actually, the other thing I wanted to mention is I do have a free Facebook marketing group, and I'll put a link on the email that I send out so that you can join that as well if you want to. And then if there are any questions that come up from this or the recording, you can link through. You will be sent to a survey at the end of this, so if you do have a couple of minutes to fill that out about the webinar, that would be brilliant. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you soon.